What's going on, everybody? It's Kellen Nitro for Nitromaniac TV's wrestling channel. Once again, joined by my collaborator, Moorhouse. Moorhouse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing one sweet. How are you?
One sweet. 2017 was the year of the cease and desist, along with a few other things in the wrestling industry. And myself and Moorhouse here are going to kind of sit down and shoot the breeze for the next little bit and look back on 2017 and kind of pontificate, which is something I love to do on this channel, obviously, about what we're going to see in 2018. And the first thing I got to say about 2017 is we got to think all the way back to the beginning of 2017 and the January of the six-star matches. Because within 2 weeks of each other, you had Omega and Okada at Wrestle
Yeah.
Kingdom. And then 2 weeks later, you had AJ and Cena at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And Meltzer gave, Okada and Omega 6 stars, and I think he gave a 5-star rating for Cena and AJ. And that kind of set the pace for the year, didn't it?
It's been a year of amazingly worked matches. He also gave Nato and Tanahashi a 5-star during that January as well, which is 3 5-star matches when, if you look back in like the year 2009, 2010, he couldn't even give a 4.5-star review some days.
Some of those shows barely got a 2.
Exactly.
Because that was back when you had like NXT doing the reality show thing, right when they switched from ECW. You had whatever the heck Impact had become at that point. And then, oh geez, a whole bunch of other things going on.
Exactly. So for a wrestling fan, just to see like, I got to look at this now. Oh, wait, this one's now 6 stars. Wait, we got a 6.5 star. Oh, you got to look at this one.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that January this year was just insane. Just thinking about the pacing of and just obviously Okada and Omega walking out and doing what they were doing was the trendsetter for the year. But then but for two, and these guys as well, for two older athletes in Cena and AJ Styles to walk out like not even 2 weeks later and put up something as comparable to Okada and Omega, if not, it didn't supersede it, but it was up there, and it's up there in a lot of people's top 5 match of the year counts. Is just it kind of shows you that maybe working the WWE style adds years to people's career. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at another guy we can probably talk about, The Miz, he's had a renaissance year for himself.
Oh, that was just a continuation of his 16. Like
his 16 going on 17, he's still going strong, and he's a guy who wrestles a WWE style, but he never gets hurt, and he can probably wrestle for another 15, 20 years easily.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But that January was just a scene setter for sure. And then moving forward, you had the build for WrestleMania. I personally was able to go and attend my second WrestleMania. And the talk WrestleMania weekend, the overpowering thing from my side, the big storyline out of that one, was there was a rumor early on that week that with the Hardys facing the Young Bucks at the Supercard of Honor show the night before WrestleMania, that potentially maybe the Hardys would be signed to a WWE contract, because this is right when the legal battle had started between them and Impact over the Broken Hardys usage, right? Mm-hmm. So I remember the vibe being there like, okay, it might happen, it might not happen. And another huge story for me coming out of 2017 was the return of Matt and Jeff Hardy to WWE.
That was a great reveal. It was, yeah, I hear you. Like the dirt sheets and the rumor sheets are like, oh, they could be coming. They might be coming. Maybe they won't be coming because they did a Ring of Honor show the night before. Mm-hmm. And then when they were revealed, it wasn't even then. It had to take a few moments because the New Day came out and they're like, hey, we're going to throw a tag team. And then they started taking off their gear like they were going to start jumping the ring. And then all of a sudden the Hardys kick in, and here comes Matt and Jeff running down the aisle for the TLC match.
Yeah, I think everybody in the Live House in Orlando, I know myself and some of the people around me for sure, thought for sure that the New Day was interjecting themselves as kind of like, oh, okay, well, yeah, they're the host of WrestleMania, so this is their power play move for the evening, is to get themselves into the tag title match.
Yep, but no, Jeff and Matt come down. Obviously, they couldn't use the broken characters that they established the night before even.
Yeah.
So they just did their old Team Extreme gimmick, but the fans just blew off the roof. You can hear it coming from the TV at least.
And see, they were using it slightly because you still had Matt doing the whole, delete chants when the camera wasn't looking, or maybe once or twice during a match or something. And there was still a Brother Nero chant going around the building in Orlando. There, actually both buildings, the football stadium and then the night after on Raw. And it was so hard to tell then, but then you take a look at what had happened after, and yeah, it made sense the way that WWE worked it this year, from signing them and then trying to keep it kind of under wraps. The problem was it was kind of a hindrance during the summer and early fall because once Jeff got hurt, Matt was a little bit more than glorified jobber duty for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then just recently now they've got the clearance, and now the broken thing is now woken, and now we'll see, obviously with this Bray Wyatt thing, hypothetically saying something at the Rumble in 18, but who knows. I know for sure they got the whole 205 Live main event spot for them, which is another story in itself this year. Actually, that actually transitions well, because here's this 205 Live show that WWE was very high on in 16 and put the building blocks towards, and in 17 just it crumbled bad throughout the year, didn't it?
The problem with 205 Live is that they pushed too many wrestlers out of the gate with no gimmicks or characters. So how are you going to invest in a product where they can't even invest in the characters?
Mm-hmm.
They brought in Enzo, who's their most marketable star, but he already had an established character to begin with. There's a few guys who are starting to get characters, but then there's still like 10, 15 guys who are kind of characterless that just wrestle.
Now even Enzo coming in is just a little bit more of a, I guess you'd call it a happenstance or a happy accident, because don't forget that was supposed to be not a long-term program with him and Big Cass feuding, but Big Cass, obviously getting hurt, shortened that feud up considerably. I think he got hurt the night after SummerSlam, was it correct?
Yeah, they had a one-on-one match, and there was a bad spot.
Yeah, exactly, and they just basically didn't have anything for Enzo to do, so they put him on 205 Live. Now, not saying that wasn't the plan to begin with, but if his plans will be, they might have fast-tracked that like nobody else's business.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And 205 Live. I mean, there's stuff I like about it. Like, I like Drew Gulak. I think his gimmick of no-fly zone is hilarious.
Yeah.
I like Jack Gallagher and his umbrella, but you got like Grand Metalik, who just wears a mask. You have Noam Dar, who just wrestles. You have TJ Perkins, who kind of had a hot start, but now he's just there. Just a whole bunch of guys with no direction.
Exactly, for sure. I fear for 205 Live's future going into 2018. I'll be very surprised if 205 Live is around in 2019. But, going into 2018, I fear for that show's future.
Yeah, it's not doing well. It's they can probably replace it. Like, a thing I would like to see is a diva type show where they can promote the women better, because right now they're kind of you'll see 2 or 3 women on each show, but the rest of them are just in the background.
Well, they kind of did it, and there's another transition again. Thank you very much to the Mae Young Classic. Your thoughts on the Mae Young Classic this year?
I thought it was great. It was entertaining. I'm happy with Carly Zane winning.
Yeah.
But Kyrie Zane winning.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure where to go from there. And that's a problem. Like, okay, you brought all these women in. Now what?
From what I can count, I think, like, out of the original field of 32, I think only maybe 6 or 8 of them got picked up to developmental deals. And maybe like a handful of them right now, like maybe 3 or 4 are actually training and wrestling on NXT, house show cards and that stuff in Florida.
Yeah.
So it was a good get for all this talent, and it's a lot like 205 Live. It was a good get for WWE to grab this talent. The problem is now you have this talent. Where are you going to showcase them? Where do they go? And it's tough. It's tough to really put them, even with this network of over-the-top content and that stuff, which, again, not a lot of people seem to be, real, I guess, dialing in to grab, but...
No, it's it's understandable. Like, and also maybe they have too much wrestling, and that's a problem too. You got 3 hours for Raw, you got 2 hours for SmackDown, you got an hour for NXT, you got an hour for 205 Live. You have these random tournaments every now and then. You have a pay-per-view maybe once or even twice a month. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of wrestling dedicated to one company.
Exactly, for sure. Very interesting figure in 2017 to look back on, and that people will look back on and say that, holy smokes, look at what this guy did over the course of a year, is Chris Jericho. Because beginning of the year with WWE, he had that fantastic tag team pairing with Kevin Owens that led to that awesome split, the Festival of Friendship in Las Vegas, which was one of the best betrayal angles I have ever seen for a tag team ever. It's up there with the Demolition turning on Mr. Fuji, or the Sean and Marty thing from the barbershop way back when. Like, it just had that real old school, okay, Kevin Owens is the lowest scum of the earth character ever, right? Coming out of that. And you would think that would be for the Universal title, but instead they go to Fastlane and they fast track it to Goldberg so he could fast track it at Mania to Brock Lesnar, who only wrestles once in a blue moon if the moon is out and werewolves are out on his ranch and howling at it or something,
When he has to go get some more money for his hunting adventures in Saskatchewan.
Exactly, yeah. So to me, I think Jericho and Owens both got the short end of the stick there. Just as a fan looking into it, what Jericho did in, I guess, I'm not sure if you'd even consider this a protest or if this is just more of, him being just more of an entrepreneur and that stuff, but he planned out this cruise that'll happen in 2018 that'll feature Ring of Honor talent. It'll be the first since like the Wrestle Vessel cruises in the late 90s, early 2000s, to involve wrestling and wrestling on a boat with like a major company. This time Ring of Honor, I should say. And then on top of that, he goes to New Japan and he books himself for the main event. Well, it's not the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, but it in our opinion here in North America, it's the North America main event between him and Omega for the U.S. title. Mm-hmm. And it's one of I'll propose something to you here, Moorhouse. Do you think Jericho's doing this out of spite that he wasn't in the main event spot, him and Owens, with this real hot angle at the beginning of the year at WrestleMania?
Maybe. I know he's a loyal WWE guy. He praises Vince even to this day. Like, you go to his Twitter and he still praises Vince. But I don't know if that's also a character he's pushing through New Japan. Where he's, the corporate guy.
Right.
He seems to be involved in everything. Like, you can't get away from Chris Jericho. He has his TV show on CBC. Right. He has his music, which is now getting, mainstream radio play in Canada. Mm-hmm. He has his book this year. He has his podcast, which is still going strong. He has his cruise. He's going to New Japan. He's on the front pages of wrestling magazines. Is it Jericho of 08 again?
It's almost like a career renaissance. Yeah. 10 years later, right? So
yeah,
it's insane. Yeah, for sure. He'll be an interesting figure to watch in 2018 for sure coming out of this. I think he had a phenomenal 2017, but I think that, the sky's the limit, especially if this Jericho Omega thing tracks to where we think it'll track, with a huge match popping the crowd in Tokyo, and then maybe a rematch on the cruise, in October.
Yeah, you could have the Wrestle Kingdom match, you can have the cruise match, and maybe they do one more at Final Battle and they carry it over the whole pretty much Japan, North America globe there.
That would be insane. That, just thinking about it just boggles the mind. But that's what Chris Jericho does, is he boggles your mind, right?
Yeah, he keeps you guessing. Part of me is annoyed with him just because it's so much Jericho lately. But he's a Hall of Famer. He's an first ballot Hall of Famer. There's nothing you can say bad about him career-wise, personality-wise.
So another name that had a real great year in 2017 is Braun Strowman, and this dude I've likened him on, my Nitros Take vlogs after pay-per-views and that stuff, to a hillbilly Terminator. This some dude that, the hillbillies out in Carolina built in some backwoods shop or something, and they sent it out into the world, right? And here's this guy just wandering, right? But man, what a rise for this dude. And that's the thing, is the crowd has kind of taken him in and is believable with him, because they've made him into the most believable face on WWE TV that they got right now.
No, that's quite true. When he first debuted back in, I think it was 2015, as just one of Braun Strowman's lackeys, you would never guess. Like, you looked at him then, like, okay, this is going to be like another Eric Rowan type guy. He's not going to go any farther.
Right.
Then they change his character dramatically. They push him over jobber after jobber after jobber until they're like, okay, now he can, fight regular competition. And the fans love it.
Yeah, it was at a point in 2016 where the jobbers that he was getting squashed were getting over because they were getting squashed by Strowman.
Yep. Yeah, because there's Michael Blaze, I think. Shit.
Yeah.
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 One of the jobbers he fought is a local indie guy here, Michael Blaze, and everyone was freaking out, at least that I know in the wrestling community here in Edmonton, was like, oh my God, he was on TV, he got to fight Braun Strowman, how cool is that?
Yeah, in Portland. I can't remember when it was. It was towards the end of 16, I think. It was like the fall of 16 or something like that. But yeah, it was in Portland.
Exactly. Yeah, so he was getting jobbers over, and then finally he's like, okay, let's let him loose. He got to fight Lesnar a few times this year, and actually fans are quite upset that he wasn't able to dethrone the Beast incarnate yet. Keyword yet. But we'll see what happens. The Rumble's coming up soon, and I think he's a good contender to take that.
For sure. So Moorhouse, another name that everybody will be thinking about when it comes to 2017 and looking back upon it, is just two words: Jinder Mahal.
There you go. He's the king of the three-man band.
I guess. WWE Championship ring, a lengthy WWE Championship ring in 2017. What was the final number? Something like 191 days or something like that?
He had a lengthy run. It's a surprising and lengthy run.
Won the title, I believe, at the, what was it? I think it was Money in the Bank pay-per-view this year? Or was it prior to that?
Let me verify that here.
Sure. Yeah, you got the Google going on.
Yeah. He won it at Backlash in May.
Really? At Backlash? Wow. So that was that long ago.
And 170-day reign, yeah.
Wow. That's insane. I've totally spaced on the length, but yeah, it seemed like he held that right for the summer. Everybody thought he was going to drop it to Shinsuke at SummerSlam. That didn't happen. And then that went out, and he ended up eventually dropping it to AJ. But, man, a long, lengthy run for him, which was kind of, I guess, planted because WWE wanted to get some coverage and get subscribers in India.
That didn't work at all.
No, and that ended up being they booked this huge house show tour for India for free shows, and they had to cancel two of them, and the one that they
Didn't
did
sell out.
run looked like a oh I can't use that verbiage when talking about that. It looked like going to like a professional hockey game in the Sun Belt. There was
Yeah.
empty seats, all over the place. So
Yeah, the gender experiment kind of blew up in their faces.
yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's because they made him a heel. If he was a baby face, maybe they'd be more into it.
Interesting thought there. Do you think that okay? The talent he elevated though during that too, like he made the Singh brothers into a believable heel kind of tandem.
Yep.
He even brought the Great Khali back for, I guess I wouldn't call it a Legends pop, but a nostalgic pop at which pay per view was that? Money in the Bank.
No, I think it was the cage match, the Punjabi one.
Yeah, Battleground.
Yeah.
Yeah, Battleground. That's what it was. And the Punjabi prison match. Right. Man, a lot of people were baffled by WWE's decision to go with Jinder as the champion. But in my opinion, it was the right move for them at the time. It was a gamble.
He was a good heel champion. Like you hate him, and that's what a heel's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's supposed to win. He's supposed to cheat. A heel's supposed to cheat. A heel's supposed to lie, and a heel's supposed to run away.
Mm-hmm.
A heel's not supposed to be a hero.
I think they're going to try and do with him like they did with Sheamus, because remember that Sheamus held the belt for a little while as a heel, and then very early on in his career, and they put him in the ring with Triple H, they put him in the ring with Orton, they put him in the ring with Cena, blah 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 blah, and then kind of put him after losing the belt back on a mid card, and he's kind of a safety net. A little bit, kind of like a transitional safety net champion that, if somebody, say a Roman Reigns or they elevate to, just for hypothetical, say, or hypothetical speech, like a Heath Slater to WWE champion or something like that. And that's just not working. They can bring in Jinder to bring that in, and then it doesn't quell the push, but it's a safety net.
Yeah, I think he'll be put into a top, an upper mid card tier for the next little while. As you're a babyface, well, you got to go through Jinder first to get to the next level, which is not a bad level for Jinder. At one time he was a jobber for a long time.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. He'll be an interesting name to watch in 18 for sure, and a group of three that is a very interesting group to watch for sure, and they might be the hottest trio in wrestling today. No, I'm not talking about the New Day. I'm talking about D Elite.
Oh, they have been roof on fire this year. It's and I wouldn't even looking at them now, I wouldn't even say they're three guys. They're now there's six guys now.
Yeah, you add Cody to that mix, you add Marty Scurll, you add Hangman Page to that. Yeah. And it's, these guys, they are, and old school fans are going to hate me for saying this, and we're going to probably get some hate on the old comment box underneath here about talking about this, but there's elements of old school wrestling heeldom here with them, because they say things and they do things, on social media and on pay-per-views and on live streams and that stuff that just gets get under your skin, and you're like, what's the first thing that pops your mind? Oh, I want to see this guy get beat up, right?
Yeah. They're destroying the business, and it's pissing everyone off.
And selling merch at Hot Topic like nobody's business, which I'm gonna just deviate from, talking about the wrestlers a little bit here and that stuff. That's one of the big storylines of the year, in my opinion, is those guys getting Bullet Club stuff at a mainstream store that's like in every shopping mall.
And it's one of their top sellers.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing better than some of the rock band shirts they have now.
It was for a while, and I was speaking with a couple of managers when I went down to Vegas about the stuff. They said and there was actually, when I was down in Vegas, there was actually a Hot Topic, I think like Western United States managers conference happening at one of the hotels there and that stuff. So there were a lot of people with the company that was there for conference or whatever. And speaking with a couple of them at a store in a mall in Las Vegas, they were saying that at the time that the Elite/Bullet Club stuff was the hottest property that they had on the West Coast, selling bar none. Like, we're talking stuff that was outselling bands. We're talking stuff that was outselling because they sell video game apparel there too. Talking, just the goth emo stuff that they sold. What's the Funko Pops? The little vinyl figures and that stuff. They were outselling that. Just all that stuff, and it's kind of pushed them to the brink that, okay, these top flight independent wrestling performers that you see, that we were talking about earlier on, that were jumping from show to show to show to show, on different weekends and that stuff, they got a potential outlet to sell their merchandise now, because now with the announcement that Joey Ryan and Candice LeRae are going to be selling merchandise at Hot Topics at select locations in the States and that stuff as a test market, which will probably sell, and so their stuff will be more readily available in 18. It's just going to expand from there.
Are kids permitted to buy Joey Ryan stuff?
Not sure. Unsure.
But no, it's been fascinating to see, how they're just putting a name for themselves without being on a major promotion. And that's why it reminds me of a lot of, regional wrestling kind of making a comeback here. Right. The other things that I was reading actually were they might be outselling Stone Cold Steve Austin in some of his primary years for merchandise sales this year.
Wow. Yeah, it feels like that for sure. Just the affordability and the readiness of it, or the I guess the availability of it, the affordability and availability, I should say, of it, because you could literally just walk down to your shopping mall. Every shopping mall in the States has a Hot Topic, and you walk in there and you can get, a Young Bucks shirt and then walk home and you're like, oh, cool. All right, yeah. New Japan, woo,
No, it's nice to see that, they've been so successful. This year has been maybe for, popularity-wise, they're starting to wane a bit, but merchandise sales, they're still top dollar right now.
Mm-hmm. So Moorhouse, with the good stuff and everything that comes with the year of 2017, we also have some horrible stuff that's happened during this year. What's the big things from that side of the ledger that you think everybody will be talking about in 17?
Well, there's been bad storylines. We've had the Randy Orton-Bray Wyatt feud, which was very poorly received.
Oh God, I was there at Mania when the
bugs,
the projector show with the bugs. Yeah. Oh, that was.
And then they followed it up with a horrible cottage match.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's another... Okay, this is... Okay, great. Now you got me started. So this is the one thing I'll change about wrestling in 2018. Can we cut down on the effing arson, please? That's happening in WWE. Because there was that storyline with arson. You had Kane coming back. Everybody's shooting fire out of everywhere. Can we please just... There was another instance too this year, it's not coming to mind, where fire was, in the WWE 2K18 friggin' game trailer. Seth Rollins walks into the building and burns the entire building down to the ground. He's selling t-shirts that says burn it down. Can we stop with the arson, please?
Don't you know you can be a babyface if you burn down your opponent's house?
He wasn't in my book. I thought Bray was the babyface throughout the entire program.
So that's one of the Bray's had a couple bad feuds. He also had a makeup feud with Finn Balor, which was saved by for the audience by injury.
That would be my vote for the Gooker. Would be the not the Finn Balor thing, but the WrestleCrap Gooker that they always put out every year and that stuff would be the Bray Randy WrestleMania feud, because that was just, there was no, when that match came on live, people actually got up out of their seats and left to go get beverages and stuff like that, because that was the diva death spot of WrestleMania right there.
Well, Orton is a diva, but we don't know. Even the storyline, like, you can tell as soon as it began, it's like, okay, when's Orton turning? Okay, when's Orton turning? Okay, he turned. Now moving on.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, they were tag team partners and he pretended to be a Wyatt family member for a bit.
Yeah.
Which is the exact same storyline we saw with Daniel Bryan, I think, at 30.
Well, yeah, to go into the Rumble in 14, yes, they had that going on. I was just watching some stuff about that earlier this week again. But, going into the Royal Rumble in 2014, they had Daniel Bryan turn to the Wyatts and that stuff. The thing is, though, is that worked with Daniel, because there was a groundswell of people, because you had him losing the title in 20 seconds or 30 seconds, whatever it was, when Orton cashed in at SummerSlam the year prior. And, he had the endorsement of John Cena. He had the endorsement of, all these huge legends going into WrestleMania. And it was one of the most awesome events to be a part of, because that was my first Mania live, was WrestleMania 30. And, that was the prevailing storyline throughout the entire thing. Now, there was a nuclear bomb attack halfway through the show when Undertaker got pinned, but nobody expect that. But besides the point, that was, that's the two things people will remember from WrestleMania 30 would be, that's the WrestleMania Undertaker lost for the first time, and that's WrestleMania. That's Daniel Bryan, right? And, just tying it back in with the whole Orton Bray Wyatt thing, you didn't get that timeless quality out of that match this year. And it's kind of like, another terrible thing was, being in Orlando again and seeing Taker lose to Roman Reigns. I mean, I get that, but it just...
You're bad luck, friend.
That is just... He's 0-2. When I'm in the audience, so I'll take the blame, guys. It's all my fault, I guess. A few other things that happened in 2017 are my fault too, but we won't get into that here. But apparently,
are you the reason for my next topic of discussion?
I don't know. What's your next topic of discussion?
The social media downfall of Paige.
Oh no! Go ahead.
So, the Paige, the real life character, not character. Paige, the real life person, has been in a relationship this year, most of the year, with another fellow wrestler, and there may be substance abuse problems. I think she just admitted it recently where there was with that relationship, as well as she had a significant leak that affected her life this year.
Exactly, which I think the after effects are still being felt. Unfortunately, call it what it is, the scumbag that did leak this, or did hack in and then leak the stuff and everything, is still throwing out little bits of all of the stuff that he gathered, I guess, during the time, to try to peg her thing down and stuff like that. But I mean, that's it's one of those. A lot of people will say that's the price of fame stuff, but that just shouldn't be, a thing, right?
No, and the fans on Twitter and Facebook were very aggressive at her about it. Like, they kept reminding her, like, you did this daily, hourly, minutely. Which, she's allowed to do that, but what if we just started showing, Nitro photos online and then just made fun of you all day. That's not, it hurts. It destroys you.
I mean, she was also very young when those photos were taken. Like these we're talking about photos that were taken of her when she was in developmental.
But, yep, she was. That's yeah. No, I haven't seen them, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, they're photos of her, from 2012, 13-ish.
And she was very young then. She was just a teenager then.
Yeah, still a kid in the business. So.
Yeah, and that along with substance abuse drama, and it's amazing that the WWE didn't release her at all because they had justification to do so.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done it and they didn't, and they let her work her issues out.
Which kudos to them, and for her to come back and with this absolution thing is it's poised in 18 if they do it correctly to add maybe I thought when it first debuted 8 months worth of storyline, because you could build this group up to be like the Shield, like they are the female Shield of the women's division, and then you can tear it apart with infighting or something like that, and have one-on-one feuds with Paige versus Sonya Deville, or Paige versus Mandy Rose, or Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville, or something like that going forward. But obviously Paige is going to be the mouthpiece of this group, because we saw the promo that might be one of the things that is like terrible of the year was the two other members of Absolution just kind of flubbing their lines on the opening promo for the entire group. Was kind of it's not necessarily the fabulous Freebirds coming to town to tear apart the Von Erichs, right? But hey, live TV, it happens. So
yep, I've seen a bad promo exchange between Darren Young and Titus O'Neil before, so it's definitely been done. But I think they're building a future War Games match, because you got the exact same squad with the exact same people in the Riot Squad, in Ruby's Riot right now.
Yeah, the Riot Squad over on SmackDown. Yeah, there's something happening there. I
think they're going to do a War Game, like 2018, or I'm predicting a War Games match somewhere between the two fractions.
Maybe at Mania?
Too soon, I think. Maybe at SummerSlam.
Ooh. Yeah, okay. That'd be cool. You definitely could, if you think it's got legs, you could stretch it to Survivor Series, and it would fit.
Yeah, you can do a 3, and then you can have a team of Diva Revolution with like the Bellas and Charlotte or something.
Yeah. So we were talking about the bad terrible right there, just to kind of shake your head and discuss like, oh, that's terrible, terrible. Now I want to talk about the terrible of the year. And
what's the terrible?
This will get me some flack here. The Shield reunites, and then stuff happens, and people can't work to build this thing up to be as big as they want it to be. They got themselves, their big Survivor Series match with the New Day. That was good. But prior to that, you had a situation where Roman Reigns, what had happened? Did he get hurt or something that he missed TLC? I can't remember now.
From what I read, there was mono going around.
Okay, yeah, so him and Bray Wyatt had mono, so they were forced to miss TLC, which was supposed to be the big grand return. They built this thing up for weeks, where you had the Shield take on pretty much the entirety of the Raw upper class, Raw heel side.
It was the Bar and shoot.
Yeah, the Bar, Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
And The Miz.
Yeah.
Oh, and Kane, too. Because they had to throw Kane in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they were going to... They were booking it like War Game... Or, sorry, they were booking it like Uncensored 96, brother. Hogan was going over. And then all of a sudden, there ain't no baby faces left, so enter Kurt Angle.
Shield Kurt Angle.
Which was one of the most awkward visuals of the year. Would you not agree that the whole entrance with the two Shield guys, the Shield music's going. Rollins and Ambrose at the top of the stairs doing their iconic, we're going to walk down to the ring through the crowd. And then all of a sudden, here comes Kurt Angle smiling as if to say, how are you doing, fellow Shields?
It's like a take your dad to work day.
Exactly.
He was just so proud of his kids, and he got his own vest, and he got to hang out with them.
Oh, it's insane. That's what it was. It just that.
And then,
exactly.
and then they had to end up needing a Shield third member again, so they brought in Triple H.
Exactly, on the house show tour, right? They were somewhere in Europe or something like that, and they brought him in. And it was like,
so now you have Triple H also wearing his vest.
it reminded me of the DX reunion tour back in 2009, 2010, where Shawn Michaels and Triple H were just pulling random people out of the crowd and say, you little kid, you're a member of DX. Come up here and learn how to do the crotch chop. And so, it's just like,
Hornswoggle ran up.
Yeah, exactly. Just it's something that shouldn't like when Roman went on the shelf, that should have been shelved. And now that we ended the year with Dean Ambrose on the shelf, they should shelve it. Yeah, exactly. Just they're strong enough singles acts. Just let them do their thing and then reestablish it as soon as everybody's healthy.
You don't think we should do Shield Hulk Hogan? I'm joking.
No. You had me faking there for a second, but no, not really.
It would be a big pop if he came down with him, but
what you gonna do, brother?
When the Shield runs over you.
He tries to tear the bulletproof vest off and realizes it's Kevlar, and he's just, what's with this? Nobody's gimmicked this vest, brother.
Hey, you, redhead with the beard, lay down for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What else was funny, haha, terrible this year?
Delete.
Well, they were one of the good things of the year, but they also, there was points where they were kind of.
We have a feud with Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy beginning.
Well, yeah, that too, but that qualifies as so bad it's good.
Okay, so we won't.
It's the room of professional wrestling continuing. It's the disaster artist.
What do we got?
Yeah, if we could talk about that,
We can talk about the disaster artist. I've seen the disaster.
I haven't, so I have to go see. I have to see it. I've seen the room. I've seen the room many times, but I haven't seen the disaster artist, obviously. So I gotta go check that out. I hear James Franco is actually pretty entertaining in that as Tommy Wiseau. So
no, it's a funny movie. I liked it. It's a little surreal at times.
I got a chance to go see The Last Jedi, and the thing about The Last Jedi, and I won't spoil it for anybody here, but it helps being a wrestling fan going in to go see The Last Jedi.
Absolutely.
Yes, because I'll go ahead and just say it in a vague sense. Every storyline that WWE has done in the last 20 years, you see in 2 hours and 30 minutes of that movie.
And it's building up to a main event.
Yes. And you got faces, you got heels, and by the end of it, you even have a couple of tweeners as well. So, hey, there you go.
Yep, there's the gray, the white, and the black.
Mm-hmm. And nipples.
Like weird alien nipples.
Well, not just weird alien nipples, too. I'm just saying. Disney, what the hell? Anyway.
It's for kids.
No, yeah. I'm the mascot of an evil corporation.
We gotta put nipples on TVs.
Exactly. So, well, I think we can probably close it off for 2017 by just kind of saying quickly what our 3 favorite matches of the year were. And, I mean, there's so many other moments I could talk about. I could talk about the great NXT takeover in Chicago, which I think was probably the most solid put together card storyline wise I've seen in a few years since the first takeover in Brooklyn. But I've said it all there and that stuff from the DIY split to the match of the year candidate, which is on one of my top 3 matches of the year between Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. That's actually number 3 on my list. That was a great card. Second on my list is AJ and Cena from the Rumble, and the first is again Okada and Omega from back in January at Wrestle Kingdom.
Those are your 3?
Those are my 3. Yep.
All right, my 3. I will do Naito and Tanahashi from Wrestle Kingdom.
Okay.
Number 3.
Yep.
Number 2 is, people are going to laugh at me, but I really liked Aleister Black and the Velveteen Dream.
Oh, from the takeover that just happened in Houston.
I was very entertained by that match.
Mm-hmm.
It was good psychology. It was funny. It was a mix of WWE style and indie style, and it was really cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 1 is the Minions match between Okada and Omega.
Okay. That was the rematch in June. Gotcha.
Yeah, match number 2 of their 3.
Yeah. I think that match really helped, or was really aided because of the commentary team during that match, because I found myself really enjoying Kevin Kelly and Don Callis a lot more during that match, because they were calling it like 7th game of the Stanley Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
Which, for that federation, it is. These are the 2 top guys. Nobody else can compare to them, and then look at them go. And these 2 guys pretty much reinvented themselves through the year, essentially busting out what a modern day Steamboat versus Flair from 1989 would look like now. And I think that's the biggest thing I'll take away from 2017, is especially that performance at Wrestle Kingdom. They were just the pacing and that stuff. It reminded me of renting tapes as a kid and just watching, Flair versus Dusty, or, Macho Man versus Honky Tonk Man, or something like that. Just the pacing they got, or Macho Man and Steamboat, I should say, from WrestleMania 3. It was on that level, and it's something that's kind of cool to know that, okay, kids 10 years from now can go back and watch and say, oh wow,
They wrestled for over 3 hours in 3 matches. That's insane.
Go. That's all you gotta say. Yep.
I mean, Frank Gotch probably would have troubles keeping up with that.
George Hacken, what? No, just kidding.
Me and my old 19th century wrestlers.
Well, I think when the discussion starts talking about Gotch and Hackenschmidt from like 19 or whatever, I think it's a good time to close the book on 2017, and we'll just close it off with one last little thing here. Moorhouse, what do you expect in 2018? What's the big thing that you see happening in the wrestling world?
I see the continued rise of New Japan. I think they're going to make more of an impact on Western North America this year.
Mm-hmm.
I see WWE starting to have some hiccups and desperation. I think there'll be a large roster purge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're finally going to get the next Hulk Hogan and Braun Strowman. I think he has that potential to be A-list main eventer.
Wow, that's huge. If I had to narrow it down to 3, I think that somebody's going to gather all of these independent wrestling organizations around North America and maybe even around the world and create something in 18 that's, a feasible sharing of revenue live streaming service. Because I know we had Flow Slam this year, but that's another thing that failed miserably this year, was the rise and fall of Flow Slam, because God knows they were pumping the hell out of that service when I was down in Orlando. And then, man, it just tanked in October and November. But I think that that's going to be the thing that will be established, that out of the ashes of this Flow Slam debacle, I think somebody's going to finally establish a great thing that all these teams, or all these federations and promotions and that stuff, will get together and be able to share their product on one central service that will be a solid competitor to the WWE network. So I predict that kind of starting to happen in 2018 with a few promotions. It'll take a few of the top flight guys to do it, but I think there'll be some sort of revenue sharing thing that would really, benefit them. The second one, I think, honestly, we are probably going to see WWE attempt something with the gender diversity angle that we haven't seen before. And my memory card,
are you thinking like an intergender title?
I'm thinking they may decide to go intergender title. I'm also thinking that we may see, well, we'll see the first ladies rumble this year. That's a given. That's been announced. I think the chance of the ladies actually headlining and main eventing WrestleMania this year is potentially there. And I say potentially, along the same lines of, as we were discussing earlier, what if they move War Games and have that as the main event of WrestleMania with the Riot Squad and Absolution? Or, you have a beefed up version of both squads where you take out, the Mandy Rose and the Sonya Deville's, and you pop in a Sasha Banks and a Bayley on one side, and you have a Charlotte Flair and a, some more star power on the other, right?
That girl with the initials RR who might be coming?
Ooh, yeah, that's the thing as well, right? That's another thing with the former UFC juggernaut, the one that could be, pretty much the female Lesnar if she wanted to be.
Yeah. They're gonna push her to the moon. So.
And the third thing I think that you're going to see is you're going to see wrestling kind of explode into the mainstream even more than it is right now, if it's even possible. Because this Hot Topic thing is going to launch independent wrestling like nobody's business. Because there's going to be a time, maybe by the end of next year, where you walk into your local Hot Topic and physically see an independent wrestling section where you can get merchandise from all your favorite independent wrestlers, maybe DVDs, maybe, whatever merch they're selling, regardless of the area and the land of, whatever promotion they're in and that stuff. And I think you're going to see that. And also, you're going to see WWE still going to be the top game. They're going to do their best to be mainstream. I think New Japan's going to make a real big crack with this, with the expanded North American dates, for sure, and make a big footprint in the pop. So I think that the mainstream in wrestling, I don't think it's going to be as hot as it was during the Attitude Era or during the Monday Night Wars, but I think we're traversing, potentially a line where it is as hot as the lead up to it. So like the 96s and the 97s. Almost.
Myself, I say it's more like 06 and 07 where TNA was starting to get noticed.
Right, yeah. Right. And you know what? I think Impact Wrestling will still stay around for another year. I think they'll be around at the end of next year.
TNA.
Yeah, I think Impact is still going to be around. That company has so many bullet holes through it right now and shouldn't be up and alive and round, but yet here it is. It's still here. So there's something going on that they just have great stick-to-itiveness, I guess. But that, man, like
we've been poking a fork in TNA since 2014.
I predict that Impact Wrestling in some form will still be around at the end of next year. That's my big prediction. How's that? That's a bold prediction nowadays too. I think it'll still be around at the end of 2018. Will
it be as big as it is today? Bigger? Or a regional promotion?
I said around. I'm not sure if it'll be size or not. I'm not predicting on the size. I'm just saying it'll be around. It could be running out of somebody's basement, but it'll still be around.
TNA live from Stony Plain, Alberta.
Actually got into a thread earlier this year with somebody who said, wouldn't it be cool if Impact did a bunch of tapings at the Festival Place Theater in Sherwood Park, and I'm like, well, yeah, it would probably house their fan base, I guess.
See your favorite stars, Moose. That's it.
You could count Statler and Waldorf, the stuffed Statler and Waldorf puppets that they have up on in the top of the roof as two of the paying gate, and bump your number by 2. The final thing that we want to touch on, and it's kind of more of a local thing for myself and Moorhouse this year, was the combative sports ban on all events in 2018 that's taken place in our local vicinity of Edmonton, Alberta. No doubt now it's actually made national and international headlines within the wrestling community that once again Edmonton is the laughing stock. Yeah, right when we dusted off the whole Benoit thing, now this happens. So Moorhouse, help me out here. What the fuck?
So growing up, you always have the defense, wrestling's not fake. Wrestling is passion, wrestling is energy, wrestling is athletics. Now we have to be like, well, wrestling's kind of fake. Because they're treating wrestling as a combative sport similar to MMA and boxing, where you can get head injuries, concussions, or like an unfortunate event we had with last year with a death in boxing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is where it all stems. It's out of the findings out of this that that promotions were kind of not wrestling promotions, but boxing promoters and some MMA promotions and that stuff were kind of shortchanging in their preparative states and that stuff for these shows with the information that they were providing to the Combative Sports Commission and that stuff, and in a short way to City Council, because the Combative Sports Commission is the governing body that was put in place by City Council to ensure that this stuff doesn't happen in the city. So tail wagging the dog, instead of going after the promoter of the boxing fight that happened that killed the boxer and the doctor that cleared the boxer to fight on some short turnaround, some stupidly short turnaround. I think it was like 7 or 8 days, because the guy that the main event fighter was supposed to fight ended up backing out due to illness, and so he didn't have an opponent, so they just essentially they just picked a guy and threw him in there.
They asked him. He wasn't ready to go. He had he was still sporting concussion recovery.
Right. And it's instead of going after that promoter, the right thing would be to go after that promoter, go after the doctor that cleared the fighter that unfortunately got killed, and suspend both their licenses for a set period of time, if not life, for doing that. That's the right thing to do, and then that way we everybody else isn't harmed. Nope. City Council decides to go nuclear, and nobody gets nothing. Not for a year.
Banned. And it didn't really gain, like, we were talking about it because we're wrestling fans, but it didn't get attention until WWF or WWE booked a show here, and they couldn't do it because, you guys can't have a license because you're wrestling.
Not just a show. It's a house show. But the deal with it was going to be the first house show under the brand new auspices of OEG with our fancy new arena. We had already had a UFC in 2017 earlier this year that was well attended by all accounts. And this was going to be the first kind of foray in by WWE to see, okay, this is what the building looks like up here. What sort of crowd can we get? Okay,
it was a market
maybe, potentially maybe down the line they can come back with a television taping and then take it from there. But, this was just going to be a how's it going, nice to meet you type show.
It's a test. It's like, okay, well, let's try this out. If it does well, then sure, we can bring a Raw or SmackDown. And if that does well, maybe we'll look at the pay-per-view down the line.
Right. Well, It's not happening now under this current agreement. Now the good news is that as the time that we record this is that on January 15th of 18, it sounds like that City Council is going to open up a general, I guess, Q&A session with the different promoters and talent in the city that this affects. And already there's a petition on the table to have pro wrestling and sports entertainment stricken from the Combative Sports Commission's table to be administered under, and that it gets looked at under either a separate entity or, if anything, at all. Because there are major cities around North America that don't have a I guess a pro wrestling commission anymore. I think it's just more, or pro wrestling under the auspices of whatever combative sports commissions they call it, or boxing and wrestling commissions in some towns and that stuff. And I see, the usefulness in having something like that. It's good, and it keeps everybody working within the lines and that stuff. But the problem is that it needs to be specialized, and unfortunately roping it in with the MMA community and the boxing community doesn't work. It needs to be its own separate thing. So, if you're going to create a province-wide combative sports commission, you better be creating a province-wide sports entertainment commission, I would say.
Exactly. In my views, wrestling's more like Circus Soleil, where it's a bunch of athletes who are working together to put on amazing performances. Mm-hmm. It's not two guys in a ring with no idea who each other are, just trying to kick each other's head out.
Exactly.
Because if wrestling was like that, I probably wouldn't be a fan.
No, it would be like death fighting from like the old Mad Max movies or something like that, and nobody would watch it. So, but anyways, that's how I guess we seen 2017 as just being fans and being around it all and that stuff. It was a great year. Got this channel established and started, and with Moorhouse's help in certain bits in 2018, I will continue to get this channel more up and running and with a lot of fancy stuff. We got a lot of big things planned out that we're going to start working towards for 2018, and I want to thank everybody who's subscribed and everybody who's clicked play on this video. So if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to this channel, and you can check us out online at Twitter at Kellen Nitro. Moorhouse, what's yours?
Mine is the Moorhouse CDN.
Now, is the CDN capitalized or is it lowercase? Or does it matter?
Okay, I'll say it properly then. It's the Moorhouse CDN.
Ah, I like it. I love it. All right. And, of course, you can check us out online here for this channel through tinyurl.com/Nitromaniac TV. Moorhouse, the only thing tiny is a URL.
You were going to make a genital joke.
This isn't the Joey Ryan spot. This isn't my dog spot. This isn't a liver spot. Joey Ryan spot, dog spot, liver spot. It's like it's like a fake Horseman promo. But anyway, I'm Kellen Nitro. Later days, and most of all, if you get sick and tired of hanging out with the family this holiday season and that stuff, which I understand for some people it does happen. Happy wrestling watching. Go back and check out some of your favorite events again in 2017. And most of all, what was your favorite thing that happened in 2017 in the wrestling business? Comment below, and your comment could be used in a future video. At least that's my plan. Yes, absolutely. So, take care, guys, and we'll see you all on the other side as we travel through time and space to 2018. Unless you're listening to this in 2018, in which case it's already happened and we're in the past. So,
but if you're listening in 2012, what the?
No kidding. Yeah, 2012. Geez, that was an entire YouTube channel ago. What's going on?